This knife has one job today, to prove Sonic Max aren't exaggerating. They've made a pretty bold claim that this cordless ultrasonic knife can keep cutting until the battery's empty, without overheating, without throttling, and without shutting itself down. I've heard similar promises before and they don't usually end well. So I charged it to 100%, started the stopwatch, and didn't touch it again. This is the Sonic Max Slice 10. It's an ultrasonic cutter aimed at model makers, prop builders, engineers, and frankly anyone who spends far too much time of their life cutting plastic. Sonic Max say they've built a more efficient ultrasonic drive system than most cordless cutters on the market. The important bit though isn't the technical jargon. What matters is what that means in the real world. If they're right, this should run for longer, generate less heat, and keep performing consistently right until the battery's empty. So let's find out whether that's true. A quick disclaimer though. Sonic Max sent me the Slice 10 knife to have a look at before their Kickstarter campaign. It's still a prototype, and so kind of treat this video as a preview introduction rather than taking everything I present as absolute gospel. There will be still things that change. Sonic Max have also requested to look at this script before I submit it, but as always with my videos, I've requested complete editorial control, and the only things they're going to be able to change are the technical details so I don't get facts wrong before the Kickstarter. Right, let's get into it. So what actually is an ultrasonic cutter? If you've never used one before, the easiest way to think about it is this. Imagine trying to cut something with a blunt butter knife. Now imagine slicing it through with a hot scalpel. You're still guiding the blade, but suddenly the material seems to separate on its own. That's essentially what an ultrasonic cutter feels like. Instead of relying on pure pressure, the blade vibrates tens of thousands of times every second. Those vibrations dramatically reduce the force needed to cut through many materials. For me, that usually means things like resin supports, PLA parts, foam, styrene, packaging, that sort of stuff. Once you've used one, going back to a normal hobby knife can feel surprisingly primitive. Of course, though, none of that matters if the thing overheats after 10 minutes, which is why we've already started our endurance test. We'll keep checking back on that throughout the video, but let's get started with the basics. Inside the box, you get the Slice 10 itself, a USB-C charging cable, a mains charger. Mine only came with a US plug because this is a pre-production unit, although any USB-C charger works perfectly well, and several packs of replacement blades in different profiles depending on the sort of cutting you're planning to do. The unboxing experience itself is fine. Nothing more, nothing less. If you're someone who gets excited by beautifully presented presentation and premium packaging, this probably is not going to excite you. Compared with something like Hozo, which we'll look at later, it definitely feels more functional than luxurious. But equally, it's a cardboard box and it's going to go in the recycling next, so what really matters is what's inside. First impressions are genuinely positive. The body is predominantly aluminium, which gives it a reassuring amount of weight without feeling excessive. Most of that weight actually comes from the battery mounted towards the rear of the handle, and I think that's quite deliberate. It means the blade end feels lighter in the hand, making small, precise movements a little easier than you would expect from something this size. It almost feels like holding a clunky mechanical pencil. There are a few plastic components around the body too though. The battery cover, the rear cap, the blade guard. And although none of them feel particularly flimsy, they do stop the knife feeling quite as premium as I'd hoped. The lid cap, in particular, could use some refinement. On my pre-production sample, it's a simple friction fit, and it's loose enough that I can shake it off just by flicking the knife. Now, I would love to see Sonic Max make some upgrades to this, maybe add some magnets to make it feel a little bit more premium, because while bits of the product like this don't affect how the knife cuts, they do affect how the overall product feels, and for me at least, that matters. And while I've been talking, our runtime test has been ticking away quietly in the background, so let's head over and take a look at that. We're now around 10 minutes into continuous operation. The battery has started to drop as you'd expect. The body is warm to the touch, but there's no signs of thermal throttling, no warning messages, nothing noticeable. Honestly, that's already doing better than some of the other ultrasonic cutters I've tested in the past. Of course though, 10 minutes isn't exactly a difficult test, so we're going to leave it running and come back to it in a bit. We'll start with something fairly unexciting. The cardboard box it arrived in. It's hardly the most demanding material in the world, but it gives us a feel for how the knife behaves straight away. And as you'd expect, it makes very short work of the thin card. The blade glides through it with almost no effort. Because you're not forcing the knife, it's much easier to control the cuts, which is nice. But nobody is spending £100 on an ultrasonic cutter to open Amazon parcels. So let's move to something my audience actually cares about. And if you watch this channel for any length of time, you know I spend an unhealthy amount of time cleaning up resin miniatures. In fact, these supports are from a model I'm currently painting for a challenge over on my Discord. They're fairly typical 32mm fantasy miniatures with plenty of delicate supports in awkward places. Exactly the sort of thing where one careless slip can undo several hours of printing. This is where ultrasonic cutters really begin to make sense. Instead of forcing a blade through the plastic, you're almost encouraging it to separate. The supports come away incredibly cleanly and with very little effort. It's surprisingly satisfying. What impressed me most wasn't the speed though, it was the control. The difference between a good and bad tool here isn't whether it saves you 30 seconds, it's whether you feel confident enough to work right next to a finished surface without worrying you're about to gouge out a chunk of your print. That's something it does do well, but it does take practice. Now, that isn't to say it's perfect. On really small miniatures like this, the Slice 10 feels like quite a large tool. You're essentially holding something the size of a chunky marker pen while trying to make movements measured in millimetres. For removing the bulk of supports is excellent, but once I got down to the really tiny attachment points, tucked between fingers, weapons and bits of armour, I still found myself reaching out for a traditional scalpel.
Honestly though, I don't see that as much of a criticism. An ultrasonic tool is never going to be the absolute finest precision tool. It's going to do 90% of the job, and then you can finish it with, say, more precision tools to get the really fine details done later in the process.
After a few minutes cleaning up the model, this was the result. There's still some finishing work to do, but the vast majority of the heavy lifting is already done. And of course, resin is only half the story. I also want to see how it handled FDM prints. So I grabbed an ASA model I'm printing, this is for a remote control car, complete with its support materials, and started trimming it back. Again, the experience is remarkably similar. Most of the supports I was able to remove by hand, but then the final details I tidied up with the knife. The ultrasonic action means you're using very little force, which makes it easier to avoid snapping thin printed features. The blades slice through support structures almost effortlessly, and where I find it particularly useful was cleaning up larger sections that would normally need several passes with side cutters and a knife. It's quicker, it's cleaner, and it leaves surprisingly little damage behind. One thing I would say though is that this tool requires patience. If you're trying to rush it, you'll naturally start applying more pressure than just need to let the blade work. Once you get into that rhythm, it becomes really enjoyable to use. So what's about that heat? Now this is really the section I was most interested in before I started testing, because overheating is exactly what Sonic Max say they've improved. And it's also where I have slightly mixed feelings. The Slice 10 absolutely gets warm. There's no getting away from that. And a decent amount of continuous cutting, the aluminium body becomes noticeably hot in your hand. Not painfully hot, not hot enough to stop using it, but certainly warmer than I expected given Sonic Max's marketing. Now, to be fair, we're currently filming this during one of the hottest weeks we've ever had in the UK. The temperature in the workshop is nudging 40 degrees before I've even switched the camera on. So this isn't exactly ideal testing conditions. Even so, the body definitely accumulates heat over time. What I suspect Sonic Max are really referring to is the efficiency of the ultrasonic device itself. The tool contains active cooling, and after a few minutes you'll hear the internal fan spin up to pull the heat away from the electronics. You can hear it working.
And while the fan doesn't stop the knife becoming warm, it does seem to stop the temperature escalating indefinitely. Once the fan hits its stride, the temperature seems to stabilise and it can carry on running. More importantly though is that warmth never translated into reduced performance that I could tell. The knife kept cutting exactly the same throughout the entire cutting process. No obvious loss of power, no hesitation, no warning messages, and obviously no random shutouts so far. After spending a few days using the Slice 10 around the studio, it's the little quality of life features that really start to stand out for me. Some of them feel genuinely useful, and others could do with some more refinement, but let's start with the ones that I genuinely thought were awesome.
When I first read the spreadsheet and saw a knife could detect when you picked it up, I admit I rolled my eyes a little bit. It sounded like exactly the sort of feature marketing departments love because they look great as a bullet point on a product page. But after using it for a few days, I actually quite liked it. Put the knife down, it powers itself off. Pick it back up, and it's immediately ready to go. It becomes surprisingly natural, especially when you're constantly swapping between sanding, test fitting parts, and making small cuts. It's one of those features you stop noticing after a while, which is usually a good sign. That said, it's not perfect. On my pre-production unit, I found the sensor could occasionally become a little confused. If I tilted the knife while cutting at an awkward angle, sometimes it interpreted that movement as if I'd put the knife down and switched itself off. Likewise, if I placed it on a bench a little too firmly, every now and again the software seemed to freeze, leaving me needed to power cycle the machine before carrying on.
Neither of those issues happened frequently enough that they became a source of frustration, but they did happen often enough that I noticed them, and therefore I have to include it in the video. The good news is that these don't feel like hardware failures, they feel like potentially software tweaks, and so I'm hoping this is something that can be refined before the final release. because when this feature works, it's actually really good.
Another feature I ended up appreciating more than I expected is a small OLED screen. There's nothing revolutionary here. It simply tells you everything you want to know. Battery level, operating mode, status information, when the fan's running. It's simple, it's clear, it's easy to read, frankly exactly what a display should be. There are also only 2 physical buttons on the knife, and they do feel quite cheap, but they do the job. The power button, and the dedicated button for the LED work feature. Which brings me neatly to the next feature, which is the LED light. This is another one that sounds completely unremarkable until you actually start using it. Lots of tools now have LED lights built into them, but working on resin miniatures often means peering into tiny recesses hidden under cloaks, weapons, or armour. Having a light shining exactly where the blade is going makes a surprisingly big difference. It's not going to transform your workflow overnight, but it's one of those little conveniences that you quickly become accustomed to. There is one thing you definitely won't get used to immediately, if ever: the noise. Now, if you've never used an ultrasonic knife before, be prepared. There's a constant, high-pitched whine whenever the blade is active. It's completely normal.
Every ultrasonic cutter I have ever used makes a similar sort of sound. That high-pitched whine turns into a squeal whenever it interacts with whatever you're cutting.
It's difficult to describe, but if you've heard one, you'll know exactly what I mean. Personally, you do get used to it, but I still find it jarring. If you're particularly sensitive to high-frequency sounds, it's definitely worth being aware of. One area I think Sonic Max have done a genuinely good job, though, is the overall balance of the knife, because most of the weight comes from the battery at the rear, and the blade itself feels surprisingly agile. You're not fighting against the weight of the tool. Small adjustments feel natural, almost effortless. It actually reminds me a little of using a well-balanced soldering iron. The handle on my review sample is finished with a rubberized grip, which initially I really liked. It felt secure, comfortable, easy to hold, but the only downside was, during longer sessions, particularly in this heat, once your hands warm up, the rubber surfaces start to become slightly tacky and sweaty. I think it's a relatively minor criticism, but there's probably room to improve the material choice here too. Speaking of long sessions, let's see how our endurance test is getting on. We're now around 30 minutes into continuous operation. The battery has dropped again, exactly as expected. Of course, all of this is only really useful if we can compare it to another popular ultrasonic cutter. In my case, that's the Hozo NeoBlade. I've spent quite a bit of time using this over the last year, so it makes a really useful benchmark. And the first thing you'll notice is presentation. Honestly, Hozo just feels more like a premium product. The packaging is beautifully designed, the charging dock looks fantastic, and even opening the box feels like someone's put a lot of thought into the experience. The Slice 10, by comparison, feels much more, let's say, utilitarian. It's very much a tool first, luxury product second. Build quality follows a similar pattern. The Hozo feels slightly more refined overall. The plastics fit together a bit better, the accessories are more polished. Nothing about it screams prototype.
That said, this one isn't a prototype, whereas the Slice 10 is. So, not an entirely fair comparison, but it's as close as I can manage.
The Slice 10 feels better in hand. The weight is distributed further back, making the front knife feel lighter and easier to guide. The Hozo carries more of its weight through the middle of the body, and although it's by no means uncomfortable, I found it's just a little less precise during longer sessions. The grip is another interesting difference. Hozo uses a hard plastic finish, Sonic Max uses rubber. Personally, I prefer Sonic Max's grip, despite the issue with the sweaty hands. It simply feels a little bit more secure. One feature I do think Hozo handles better though is its power modes. The cutting blade can either be permanently on, or activate only when you press the button. I actually like having that choice. It's a more analog approach. The Slice 10 is more automated. It's clearly designed around the idea of picking it up and putting it back down again, which is a cleaner workflow, providing the automatic detection behaves itself. So, let's talk about the other question that usually designs these things. Price. The Hozo NeoBlade creates a combo and currently sells for around £150 here in the UK. The standard version without the charging dock and accessories comes in at around £114. The Slice 10 is about the same. The planned Kickstarter pricing starts at $99, which is about 79 UK pounds if you're on one of the first 200, before rising to £149 or around about £110, £112, which makes it around about the same price as the Hozo, with other premium versions costing more than that. Now, I'm not using affiliate links here. I don't make any commission if you buy one. My goal from this video is simply to show you the products that are coming onto the market and then hopefully give you enough information to decide whether they're worth your money. With that said, there's only one thing left to do. Let's see how long this thing actually kept running.
Right then, we've talked about the features, We've compared it to its competitors, and we've put it through every possible test that I can think to put it through. And throughout this whole video, it's been quietly running away in the background. So, how did it do? At just before 70 minutes of continuous operation, it finally gave up. Now that's worth putting into a bit of context because that's pretty close, if not exact, to the manufacturer's claim of 70 minutes continuous running time, which frankly is amazing. It's almost like they tested it before they made that claim. And remember, we're in the middle of a British heatwave, which, if you live in one of the warmer countries in the world, will not sound that impressive, but it's currently about 30 degrees ambient temperature, give or take, maybe climbing towards 40 degrees in some of the warmer spaces in direct sunlight. So it is absolutely baking hot over here. So to be able to perform like that in this sort of climate is, yeah, I think that's pretty impressive. And let's face it, these aren't exactly lab conditions. So hopefully this is pretty close to a real world test. For the last 70 minutes, it has run continuously. There's been no drop-offs, no warning signs. The temperature has got quite hot, but that hasn't seemed to affect performance. So, big tick from me on that front.
What's also nice is that reaching the end of the battery doesn't necessarily mean stopping work. One feature I haven't mentioned yet is the pass-through charging. Plug a USB-C cable into the handle, and you can simply carry on using it while it charges.
Which brings me to the question you've probably been asking throughout this entire video. Should you buy one? I think the answer depends on how you're going to use this product. If you are looking to replace a hobby knife and you have a relatively large budget to do so, then yeah, you probably should replace it with an ultrasonic knife. They are quite cool. If you're the sort of person who only uses a knife very, very infrequently, then no, I don't think this product is for you. You can just pick up a hobby knife and get very similar, if not better, results by just being slow and careful with a standard blade. However, if you're the sort of user who is doing regular cutting, regular slicing, or regularly prepping models for shipping out to customers, for example, grabbing an ultrasonic knife or a similar tool like this will massively improve your workflow. It'll speed you up, remove about 90% of the hard graft, and then you can then finish those up with the finer details to get the product to consumer levels of quality. That doesn't mean it's perfect though. In fact, I think there are several areas where I'd like to see Sonic Max really up their game and improve the Slice 10 before they release it. The lid. The mechanism which holds it shut, which is essentially just a friction hold, just isn't good enough on the prototype I've got. It feels loose, wobbly, I've been able to shake it off a couple of times. Yeah, it's just not that impressive. Something like magnets or an entirely different type of fitting would improve this no end, I think. For something that covers the sharp blade, I think actually it's an important safety item, the lid, so that needs to be refined more. I also think the overall fit and finish of the knife could be improved somewhat, particularly maybe the grades of plastic. I don't see why the battery cover, for example, can't be made out of the same aluminium that the body is too. Same with the little charging cap at the end. That should be metal in the same way everything is, and then everything would feel less flexible, and overall more premium. Compared with the Hozo knife, the Slice 10 definitely feels like a prototype, whereas the Hozo knife feels like a finished premium product. Which, frankly, you can't forget that the Slice 10 is actually a prototype, whereas the Hozo is actually a released product. So maybe that's an unfair comparison, but I can only compare the tools that I have in front of me. When it works though, and let's be clear, there's no actual manufacturing faults I've found with this knife so far. When it works, the knife is genuinely excellent. I would like to see the sensor becoming a little bit more intelligent, so actually responds to when I'm holding it, as opposed to just the angle the knife is at, as to whether it's on or off. But the knife performs very well indeed. In all my tests, it cut through materials I asked it to effortlessly, and generally was a pleasure to use. So my final thoughts on this are that the Sonic Max is an interesting knife, but not because it's just another slightly better ultrasonic cutter. We've had those for years. Kickstarter is absolutely full of ultrasonic knives. No, what makes the Sonic Max Slice 10 a better proposition is that they seem to have looked at the problems that customers have. Things like interrupted workflow, things like weight distribution on the knife, things like being able to easily read the screens on the top and judge battery performance, and addressed all of those. So I'll just say that I'm James, this is RisingApe Minis, and I'll see you next time.